full confession time. This is less a necessity for a video review and more so just an excuse to show off how much hair I've cut off. It feels so light. Like I mentioned in my wine-drunk hotel update last week, I'm going to be again diversifying my content as best as I can during this extended period of pandemic. Even though I'm having a blast increasing my output of podcasts and interviews and things like that, I'm going to be throwing in some more movie reviews and, like I said, a video essay I'm working on. Totally expect a brand new one and done episode to show up on Anchor and here in the next day or two. Totally expect to have another remake revolution coming up pretty soon. And who knows, I might throw in some more chat caves when Max and I are in the mood for such a thing. But between editing multiple projects, doing my day job stuff, and kind of working some furniture around in my apartment for an event coming up soon. You might see me at the hotel again pretty soon. I decided to take in a Netflix movie, and this one popped up right there in the top of my recommendations, The Old Guard, which was released, I believe, just a couple of weeks ago, stars Charlize Theron, and is some action, espionage, a little bit of sci-fi fare thrown into the mix. Went into it cold, hadn't seen any trailers for this movie, but was just curious, I guess. I'm like, it's something to watch. It's got Charlize Theron, and I'm really appreciating the Theronaissance we're having, where Charlize has taken on these really tough, commanding, action-oriented roles, you know, ranging from, say, Fury Road to Atomic Blonde, which was another Charlize vehicle I really liked. And now in here, she looks pretty badass, so I might as well see what this movie's about. And this is neither a plus nor a minus for this movie, but a good 30 seconds into it, yeah, I could tell this is based off of a comic book. And I was not surprised to discover that this is actually based off of a comic done by Greg Rucka, I believe it is, for one of the kind of Image solo titles, not necessarily anything tying into the Image universe, but a lot of independent creators like to take their stuff over to Image these days for like limited series run and so forth, and I believe this is one of those examples. And also this was another directorial effort from Gina Prince Bythewood, who has done movies such as Love and Basketball and The Secret Life of Bees. So I was really curious to see, okay, how's she going to tackle an action adventure type of vehicle here. And it is pretty solid. It's solid entertainment. I'm not gonna go out of my way and say it's like the most innovative or like awe-inspiring action film I've seen in recent memory, but it is absolutely solid action fare. The Old Guard is basically about this band of mercenaries, guns for hire, soldiers of fortune, what have you, led by Charlize Theron, wherein the twist here that's revealed pretty early on in the movie, so I'm not spoiling it. The twist is that they are immortal. Not only are they immortal, but they can regenerate themselves, so you can try to kill them as much as you want. That's actually one of the big opening action sequences, is they're just gunned down in a spray of gunfire from these covert ops soldiers, and they just regenerate and heal and then take those guys to school. It's basically like if Wolverine was all the X-Men. I was intrigued by this premise. I'm not gonna say it's something I haven't seen done before. You know, there's reeks of other fares such as like Highlander and other things like that, but it definitely is an interesting choice, and especially when you have someone as charismatic as Charlize Theron to kind of play this weathered and disillusioned leader to some extent, she's the oldest of the immortals in this merry band of mercenaries, and she's obviously seen way too much shit. Even if the plot is fairly predictable with regards to what they're going to explore in the actual narrative, which is they've kept secret for a long time. I wonder if someone stumbles upon their secret in this movie. They've been a solid band of 4 comrades for a long time. I wonder if there's going to be a new 5th member to be introduced to the dynamic. So while you can sort of predict like what events will transpire, because at this point, yeah, there are some tropes laid out throughout this whole movie that a lot of us who explore sci-fi and comic books have become familiar with, it's still interesting to me. It was still captivating, mainly because of the performances. Secondly, because the action is very well executed and is fairly tight for the most part. Only on some rare occasions do they do the Taken 3 style of multiple cuts in the action scene, where the geography of fight sequences can get a little haphazard and you can get lost in the shuffle to some extent. But for the most part, choreography and spectacle and speed is pretty on point. Charlize absolutely anchors this movie in some believability. Her charisma, or her stoicness, I guess, that's coming through in this performance, while it's not one of her probably most standout roles, it absolutely is what you invest in right from frame one. There are some really good character interactions that do play off of this whole, they've been together for thousands of years at this point. One of the introductory sequences to the team is where they're all meeting again. They only like reconvene for assignments. It's not like they go around the world together for the most part, hanging out. There's only 2 members of the group that are in a relationship, and so they kind of, it's a package deal. You get one, you have to have the other there, so they're always together. But there's this introductory sequence where the 4 of them reunite, and they play this little game where Charlize has to guess like the country of origin or the region of origin that this pastry or delicacy is from. And so she has to like sit there, just eat it without any clues, and they put wagers on if she can pinpoint where this pastry was conceived. And because she's lived so long and has probably had cuisine all over the globe for thousands of years, she's able to pick it out. I like that. I like that little detail to the world that they add. I like a lot of what the new character that's introduced to the group dynamic, I believe her character's name is Niall. She's played by Kiki Lane from If Beale Street Could Talk. She plays this soldier who discovers upon a very dangerous and deadly mission that she is one of these immortals, because she ends up getting her throat cut and regenerating. That automatically tips off the rest of the group to her existence, and Charlize kind of takes it upon herself to bring this new immortal into the fold and to kind of teach her a little bit about where they come from, even though that's kind of left very open and vague right up until the end of the movie anyways. There's no real explanation for why they are the way they are. It's more so just, this is the premise, we'll build the world as we go, and you go along with it. And I like that dynamic too. I like kind of Kiki playing this novice fighter that is taken under the wing of Charlize's character, Andy, I believe her name is. She has a longer, more pronounced name, obviously harkening back to ancient times that I can't recall right now off the top of my head, but she goes by Andy for majority of the movie. And while that's going on, you come across the trope of the exposure issue, like I said, wherein Dudley from Harry Potter is hybrid Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, and a little bit of Shkreli. So a triumvirate of assholery, which Dudley from Harry Potter excels at. So he wants to basically make a killing off of the powers of the immortals, be able to incorporate it into his pharmaceuticals and his medications and so forth that he can distribute to the world and make millions bajillions off of. So he seeks out the help of Chiwetel Ejiofor, who is this like CIA operative, to hunt down these immortals and bring them in for testing. The hunters become the hunted. A couple of really tight shoot 'em up sequences where Charlize and company just go on a rampage, taking down soldiers left and right. a little bit of a revelation with regards to Chiwetel Ejiofor's motivations behind finding them, which is a nice revelation too, even though it's one you see coming a mile away. And then open it up for universe building at the very end of the movie with post-credits, because everything's got to be Marvel. Whether or not it has the longevity to build its own franchise, I'm not entirely sure. It would be interesting to see this kind of blossom and grow, especially since it is, being distributed through Netflix. This could be like one of Netflix's biggest endeavors for its own shared universe concept, since, the Marvel stuff has been kind of put on indefinite hiatus because Feige wants to focus on movies and the television division isn't doing jack for him. So that's why Daredevil, Iron Fist, Cage, Jessica Jones, all those series have been halted and or canceled. So this would be a major coup for Netflix to be able to build something original, or I shouldn't say original, but build off of something that doesn't have to be tied to a huge IP label such as Marvel. This is, again, a smaller publisher. This was originally released as a comic from Greg Rucka through Image, so I feel that would be easier to negotiate, like salaries and distribution rights and things like that, because it takes itself into a more grounded direction for the superheroics, because it isn't as flashy or colorful as a Marvel or DC product, because it's taking roots more so in what if this was in the real world? What if we did have immortals working behind the scenes in the real world? I don't know if that's really going to grab the overall audience, especially when you have an audience that's been cooped up for many months now and is craving fantastical escapism that everyone's kind of waiting for bated breath to go back to the theaters for. Be patient, people. You want to live to see all of Phase 4 or the next Christopher Nolan movie. You don't want to rush things. While I thoroughly enjoyed what this movie was, and it is a solid bit of action movie, the whole time I was watching it, I could kind of feel like the check marks on the boxes being checked. Like, okay, I called a post-credit stinger. They set up a character in Andy's background earlier in the movie, and they give her speaking roles and a pretty significant amount of flashback that I'm like, they're not just going to drop this character smack dab in the middle of this movie for a flashback and not harken back to them at the end. I have a feeling that was some very deliberate sequel baiting being done, and it felt like sequel baiting being done in the moment for a franchise that I knew next to nothing about going in. In a way, it reminded me a lot of Buckaroo Banzai when I first saw it, because there's this really good video done by Kyle Colgren of Browse Held High fame, where he talks about Buckaroo Banzai being this lost tome from a franchise that never existed. In other words, you're being just dropped right into the middle of Buckaroo Banzai's story. You're not really given much setup for who he is origin-wise, or how he met his group of compatriots, or who his enemies really are. You're just kind of seeing one adventure in what is supposedly a series of adventures. And I was definitely getting a little Buckaroo Banzai feel off of that here, except this is like hardcore, more dead serious Buckaroo Banzai as opposed to the silliness of Buckaroo Banzai, which is great. Go watch Buckaroo Banzai. As I was watching the movie, and as much as I was enjoying the action sequences, as much as I was enjoying the interactions between Kiki and Charlize, seeing Chiwetel Ejiofor, doing his thing. He's a solid performer, reveling in the inherent and obvious evilness of Dudley, because he can never not be evil, apparently. As much as I was enjoying all of that, I couldn't help but have this thing in the back of my head saying, they want to do prequels, they want to do spin-offs, they want to do sequels, obviously. They're setting themselves up for a sequel. Man, they really want this to be a shared universe. And like I said, that's neither a good thing nor a bad thing. It's just something I was kind of aware of throughout the whole proceeding. And I hope it does pay off for him. It would be nice to diversify the shared universe menu a little bit, to be able to have something that isn't so as world renowned and as recognizable and mass produced as a DC universe or a Marvel universe. It would be nice maybe to see if they could take this premise of immortal warriors and expand upon it in interesting and new directions. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not familiar with the Rucka book originally, so I'm not sure if he takes this concept and just takes it to bizarre places in his books. Maybe I'll have to check them out at some point. It definitely got me interested in what the source material's like, because part of me was wondering, is this a Wanted scenario wherein kind of the characterizations and motivations are staying the same to some degree, but they just had to lose the trappings of the supervillain side of things and just go for straightforward assassins? I was very genuinely curious as to how loose an adaptation this is. So maybe I'll have to check out The Old Guard and give you my thoughts on the comic. But for right now, I'd definitely say this is a solid, watch if you just enjoy action movies, and if you enjoy a lot of what Charlize is doing as a leading lady in action movies. I would very much recommend this. Is it the best thing she's ever been in? No, not really. Is it the worst thing? God, no. This is a fair, average action movie that I can recommend to people. So if you've got an hour or two to kill and you just want to kind of tune out the harshness of reality right now, The Old Guard, I think, could do that for you in a pinch. So like I said, I'll have more podcasts and other fun stuff coming soon. I just wanted to show off my haircut and talk about Charlize Theron.